So we're here today with a good friend, Jim McDade. Jim is being inducted this year into the Arizona Drag Racing Hall of Fame. We'll be doing that for Jim. It'll be in November in Phoenix at the go-kart track up on Pinnacle Peak Road, but it's where we have during the Arizona Drag Racers reunion Phoenix version that Bill Gusick puts on. So, we're excited about that for you. And part of that, and part of who you are, you're also a legend. So you're being interviewed today as Arizona Drag Racing legend. And by the time we're done with this, I think you'll see why you can feel good about being called a legend.
Okay.
Very good. So first of all, congratulations on the Hall of Fame appointment.
Thank you. I'm humbled.
What when you found out, what was that like?
It was great. I loved drag racing when I did it for lots of years. It was my life for a long time. I put a lot into it, and I made a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great to know that I did enough to be honored this way. It felt good. It felt really good. So I'm humbled.
I've known you for a lot of years, but I know you, but I don't know. We're gonna do the 60 minutes investigation on you right now.
Okay.
So this will be a lot of fun because I know who you are and I know the quality person that you've been. So, where are you from? Where are you born?
Born in Chicago, moved to Arizona in '57.
Okay.
Apache Junction, Arizona.
AJ.
Grew up there.
So your parents moved you out here?
Yeah. My mom had real bad arthritis, so we moved out here for her arthritis.
The doctor said, get where it's warm.
Yep. And my dad had a little drinking problem, and that just got worse. He died when I was 16. In my youth, there was two ways to be popular with the girls. Either I had a nice car, or you were one of the jocks. I wasn't big enough to be one of the jocks, so I got into the cars, and it was natural to me. I really liked it, And I had my first car was a '51 Henry J.
So you got into the cars, but let's back up to the point where you moved out. You're in Arizona. Where did you go to high school?
Apache Junction High School.
And what year did you graduate from high school?
'65. All 18 of us.
All 18 of you. And was there a car club in high school at all?
Well, not a car club, but there were like two different classes. There was the social guys that drove mommy's cars, and us greasers, they called us, because we had grease underneath our fingernails, that owned our own cars and worked on them all the time.
So when did you decide you're going to, cars were going to be your life?
When a girl asked me if she could ride in it. And then I figured, okay, cars are cool. And then I blew up the 4-cylinder in it.
This is the Henry J.
The Henry J. And I knew where there was a wrecked Kaiser with a big old flathead 6 in it. And I got the motor for $10. And I put it in my Henry J. And a buddy of mine wanted to take me out to the new drag strip out on the west side of the world. And it turned into being Mel Larson's, to watch the Arfon's Green Monster. That was my first drag strip experience. I think it was early '63. And saw all these guys drag racing and stuff, and oh my God, I got to get into this. But I couldn't get the Henry J past Tech. In fall, that's when they opened up Beeline. And that was a lot closer to Apache Junction than, Mel Larson's was. Then I had a '56 Chevy I put a 325-inch Dodge Super Red Ram Hemi in it. Mistake, because it put me in a hot rod class, and I had to run against 56, 55, 7 Chevys with 327s in them. So you know how that went, not very well. 327 could not run that 325-inch Hemi on any given day. So then I was going to go into service, and I wanted a new car. So I was going to order a new Corvette. And because I had some tickets, couldn't afford the insurance. So I sat down with a sales manager at Brown & Hoy Chevrolet and ordered what they later started calling a Copo car. I ordered a '66 Chevelle SS 396. We used this was in the summer of '65. We used the RPO number for the 425 horse 396 that was in the Corvette, 220 low 4-speed, 410 posi, bucket seats, gauges, no air, no power steering, no power brakes. Got it on Halloween of '65. $2,887 out the door. $2,887. Drag raced it in November, right off the trailer. Ran 13s with it, which was really fast in those days.
And it passed Tech.
And it passed Tech because it was a brand new car. And Brown and Hoy Chevrolet had an identical car to it, and I was beat him all the time. The guy, his name was Barry Ross. I used to race him, and I could outdrive him. And he'd go back to the dealership at the end of the weekend and race heck with all the mechanics, because some kid that works in a gas station in Apache Junction is kicking my butt out there at the Beeline Dragway. So the Winter Nationals in '66 was an oddball one. The river ran for the first time in December and January of December '65, January '66, for the first time since 1941. And it wiped out every culvert and everything there was except the Tempe Bridge and the Central Avenue Bridge.
So people who are going to be watching this may not know that we know the river's a salt river, and it bisects when it runs, it bisects the normally dry river. Normally dry river bottom bisects the valley, and there's like one or two ways to get across the river.
The only way.
And if you're on the opposite side of the river, unless you're going at 2 in the morning, you probably weren't going to go to the other side of the river.
That's right. So they moved the Winter Nationals to Irwindale. And that was in, I think, the 3rd week of January. But they already had all this prep work done and everything for the Winter Nationals that was supposed to be at Beeline. So the 2nd week of February, they had the new Winter Nationals. They advertised it, but it wasn't the real one. AHRA Winter Nationals. I ran in B stock. I ran in Mr. Stock Eliminator with that Chevelle. Final round was me and Butch Leal. He beat me. But the guy he beat before me had protested him. The guy that he beat before he raced me in the round before protested him. Butch Leal had 2 cars. He had A super stock car and a B stock car. Okay. When they weighed the car, it was almost 400 pounds light. So I got the win. All right. And I still have the trophy. It's 6 foot tall. And that was oh my God, I couldn't believe that. A little later in the year, they had the first B stock invitational. B stock back then was 389 Pontiacs, 383 Plymouths and Dodges, 390 Fords, 400 Buicks, 442 Olds, anything up to 400 cubic inches. There were 300 cars there. And I won that, and I had the trophy. And then I watched the car burn in a fire.
What happened?
I was working out of a garage of a guy I worked for, and he had garbage trucks. And we'd been welding on the garbage trucks that day. I had the motor out. What I did is I kept changing the rear end in the Chevelle to go faster. That's how I got it the best of 1238. But when I put the 513s in it, it over-revved going through the traps, and I floated the valves a little bit, and I thought I'd been a push rod. Brought it home, put new push rods in it, still had a cylinder popping. I'd bent a valve. So we pulled the heads off of it, and then I pulled the motor and transmission out of it, actually. I took the car out. And we were welding on the thing, and we put the welding up here, and the oxygen on the tanks had a leak, and it was right next to the grease barrel. And him and all his kids were bowling that night, and that combination is instant fire. Burned his shop, his house, his pets, everything they owned burned to the ground except the clothes they had on their back, and my engine, and my transmission, etc. So I put a small block in it and sold the car. And then I had a 57 Chevy for a while, and that didn't work out too good, and I quit for a while. And then I want to go drag racing again in the early 70s.
So when you quit, you said, okay, I've had it, probably a little bit of heartbroken. You lost a car that was working really well.
Yep.
So what did you do? What was a period of time when you were away from drag racing?
Worked, went to school.
Okay.
I was going to college, and then I was a test driver at General Motors Desert Proving Grounds. Took a lot of my time, and liked that job. Lost that job. I wrecked one of their toys. That's another story in itself.
Not supposed to do that.
No. They gave me a final release from the union, which is like getting fired. Then I went to work for the Salt River Project, and went back to school, and ended up 8 years later getting a degree in mechanical engineering. But I got the drag racing bug really bad again, and I started going around seeing if I could get a sponsor. Who are you? What are you going to do for me? You know, I was nobody. So somebody says, you know, the way to get a record is to find a soft record, build a car with minimum money, and you'll have a national record. So I went through all the rule books. I wanted to do a Chevrolet, and found out that there was a Q optional automatic class for a 194-inch 6-cylinder Power Glide.
Q.
Yeah,
like in Queen.
Nova,
Q.
62 Nova. Found a car for $50. Had a 4-cylinder in it. Sold a 4-cylinder for $50. So I had the car for nothing. Built a 194-inch. And at that time, the Mexican restaurant I was going to in Apache Junction, her nephew and brother were opening up a speed shop in South Phoenix called J&J Speed Unlimited.
Jim McCormick.
Jim McCormick and John, what's their last name? Anyway, yeah, that was his father-in-law, actually. So he sponsored me first year. He gave me some parts, and it wasn't much. And he turned me on to Tom Burton, what a great sign painter guy. And he dialed up the car. I took the car over, it was light blue. I took the car over to him, and he says, yeah, we're going to do Hughes converters here in purple, and we're going to do McDade Performance Engineering in black and white. I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to spend all this money for this lettering, and it's going to be in black and white. But when that car was at the finish line, you could read it. He was that good. All right, I got another story about him later on. Anyway, so I set a national record here in Tucson at the old drag strip, 1710. Okay, I had a 454 3/4 ton pickup truck. I pulled it with that ran 1690s, and I had a national record at 1710. So then I wanted to go faster, so I built an N optional automatic car with a 230 cubic inch, and set a national record with that. There's a story with that. There was a gal here in Tucson named Carol Karshner. She was the head tech person at the Tucson Dragway. The record I set was Vance Brady. He was the head of NHRA Tech, ball-headed guy. His son's record. I blew it away. And they disqualified me for the steering wheel was too small. It was an OEM steering wheel. It was a Nova steering wheel. She went to bat for me and got me my record.
So, and Carol was quite the lady. She her and her husband, a company
Dave.
called the Speed Hut, Dave.
Yep.
Speed Hut. Then she also managed the Super Shop store in Tucson for a while.
Yep.
And so she's a diehard drag racer.
And she's been my friend all these years, all these years. And then they were selling T-shirts at Good Guys and stuff like that, and I ran to her again. And anyway, Dave just passed away last summer, I think. And so I got, anyway, so then I want to go real fast. But I only could do with the six, well, with that Nova, I went to a red car, and Joe Rundle, from Rundle Speed Goodies, he wanted to sponsor the car because he was taking on some 6-cylinder lines, and he wanted a 6-cylinder car with somebody that could work with him. And that was me. And I worked with Bill Hughes. Bill Hughes used to give me Hughes converters, boxes of converters. Here, Jim, try this one. And I'd run a time trial. We could take that transmission in, and I'll change converters in 20 minutes. I'd run another time trial. I'd run another time trial. And I'd go back and tell them, this one ain't worth a darn. This one's really good. You know, worked with Bill really good. Worked with Rundle really good. And so I'm looking at the record on the stock optional car that I had, that it really blew that record away. I'm looking in the parts book at the Napa store, and I'm seeing that some of the 6-cylinder parts and the small block Chevy parts got the same part number. So I get doing a little more research and found out that the 230 cubic inch 6-cylinder Chevy had 283 pistons in it, 327 rods in it, etc. So I used the 375 horse 327 dimple rods. I used the fuel injected pistons out of a 283 fuel injection motor, etc., etc. I used big block rocker arms because they were 1.75 ratio instead of 1.5. Did a little, it was legal cheating, let's say, because the rule said you have to run OEM parts to run in this thing. In the book it said, in other words, Chevrolet pistons in a Chevrolet block, Ford rods in a Ford block. So I blow this record away, and they protest me. So they P&G me. That's how they measure the cubic inches, and I'm legal. So the guy's really mad that I did this, so he wants me to pull the head. I pull the head. You can see the pop-up pistons. They go nuts. I said, no, they're Chevrolet pistons. No, they're not. So I had to pull the pan. Another $100 they pay you. Pull the pan, pull it out. It's got Chevrolet part number in it. So I got the record. Then I went with the hotter motor, etc. Set that record. Then I want to go really fast, and Rundle talked me into going with a Camaro, and I went with a big block Camaro.
About what year was this?
75.
1975.
76. And that car it got me a lot of notoriety, but it wasn't that winning a car. That 6-cylinder Nova did a lot better than that. They were calling me Grenade McDade there for a while, because we were trying to get them big blocks to run $8,000 with steel rods, and it wasn't going to happen.
So back when you ran the 6-cylinders and you ran an American Hot Rod Association, we had other people that had the Sleeping Beauty car, and we had several other, Dennis Casera, that we had a lot of 6-cylinder cars that
Dave Workman,
who we just lost last week, another legend racer. I wish we could have interviewed him, but these people were all doing very well with the 6-cylinder and cleaning up very well. The great thing about AHRA, as I remember, is they had a class for everybody.
They did.
And everybody could be competitive in the class.
They did.
But that wasn't good enough for you. You want to go quicker.
I did. I wanted to go quicker. But before that, when I built the Hot Rod Nova, I joined a group called the Arizona Street Association. Now, that was because hot rod cars, they ran a hot rod class, and modified production cars, they ran in Street Eliminator. And it was a small class of guys, and they complained a lot and didn't get a lot done. And guys like me and Bud Pickens and Tom Shambaugh and Jim McCormick were all saying, well, we got to get everybody doing this, you know. And no, we don't want to do everybody, you know. So I got myself elected president of the Arizona Street Association.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, boy, talk about careful what I wish for. So then we changed the name to the Arizona Drag Racing Association. We trademarked the name. I wrote the bylaws. And we got everybody we could that drag raced into the Arizona Drag Racing Association. The reason we did this, I don't know if I should mention names, but the promoter at the Beeline drag strip was not the most honest promoter. He would promise us we brought this many cars, he'd give us this much money. And a lot of times he didn't do it. And we complained. And he would just, you know, and so I got ADRA bigger. Bill Gusick was my dragster. He had a dragster. He was my go-to guy with him. He got the dragster guys in. We got the bike guys in. We had everybody in. So he's making us mad one time, and I'm telling him, you know, if you keep this up, he's at the top of the towers, screaming down at me, down the stairs. I don't need you blankety-blank door slammers. I can bring 4 funny cars in here and fill the stands. You know? I said, okay, then we're going to boycott you. And we boycotted him. And he even went so far, he brought the 4 funny cars in. And he went so far as had guys calling up all the speed shops, pretending they were lawyers, and saying, we're going to sue your speed shop if you don't send your sponsored cars out to race. And all the speed shop owners knew this was BS, except Wilkie's. Wilkie's went. So they sent their 3 cars. So they had this big funny car race, 4 funny cars. They advertised all over. They run the 4 funny cars. 3 cars. It took an hour between rounds. Okay, and the people ain't liking it. The spectators, they're hollering and screaming and booing, and they start throwing beer bottles out on the track. That was the last time we had glass beer bottles at Beeline. And they had to give everybody the money back. Okay, so I had a little clout, but he was stubborn. But the drag racers, they wanted to go racing, and they pressured me to make some kind of deal with them. Okay, I wanted a contract. You know, make a deal. So we made a deal. And he lived up to his end of the bargain for 3-4 months, and he did it again. So then we pulled the big boycott, the big one. So I'm sitting there at home one day, and I get this phone call. And I said, is this Jim McDade, the president of this ADRA thing? And I said, yes, sir. Who's this? Don Garlitz. I said, yeah, right. I'm thinking it's one of the promoter's henchmen, you know. I said, you ain't Don Garlitz. He said, yes, I am. I said, what's your wife's name? I said, Pat. Well, if it was one of the henchmen, he wouldn't know what Don Garlitz's name is. His wife's name is. So I said, okay. He says, we got to meet. So I meet with him, and he's starting up this new, what do you call him? Sanctioning body called PRO or something like that. And he had rented the track for his inaugural race, and he needed the door slammer guys and the sportsman people to fill in between rounds. So I told him the whole story like I just told you. He said, what is it going to take to get you guys there, and how many cars can you get me? I says, how many do you want? Can you get me 200? So I can get you 300. All right. Really? What do you got to have? Got to have a contract. Because if I have a contract, I can waive it when he don't want to pay, because he knows I'll sue him. All right. 4 days I had a contract. Well, I'm a hero. I got a contract, right? It wasn't me. It was Garlitz did it. I don't know what he had over him, what he did. He got the contract. And he never messed with us from that day on. He always paid whatever he was going to. Also during this time, there was a newspaper article about street racers killed some people drag racers kill some people drag racing on the streets. I wrote a scathing letter that they're not drag racers, they're street racers. There's a big difference to Arizona Republic. Well, a month or so later, this guy looks me up. He says, so what's the difference? I took him around, showed him what drag races were, what street races were. And he just looks me in the eye and says, well, why don't you do something about it? So, me and some of my lieutenants, Bill Gusick being one of them, went to Central Avenue. We showed our cars. We tried to start something called the Midnight Drags. Finally got a hold of this guy named Mike Jones, who was the king of Central, that was doing all the stuff up on Cave Creek Highway. Convinced them to come and race, and that started the Midnight Drags. And we got wrote up in the Arizona Days and Ways. That was a magazine and there and everything else. And it was great. This is my real legacy, is the Arizona Drag Racing.
It's what you feel good about your story. So you accomplishing and setting out, and you did an awesome job with that part of it. I remember those years, and you should be very proud of what you did. And you brought racers together, people that didn't necessarily even talk to each other. You made allies out of enemies. A great feeling to do that. In the meantime, you had you were still racing. When did you race? How long did you race?
I raced from 63 to 80. When Beeline shut down, Tucson was shut down, and Mel Larson's had a dip in it, and I had a dragster at the time. And first time I went through with that drip, I ain't racing here no more. My kids were getting older, and racing was costing so much money. I was taking food off the table to go drag racing because my side business wasn't making as much money as I needed it to race the way I wanted to. So I quit. My boys were at the age where they wanted to be Boy Scouts, and I got into Boy Scouts.
Were you a Boy Scout when you were younger?
Yes, I was.
So yeah, what rank did you get?
Life.
You got the life.
I was 2 merit badges away from Eagle, citizenship in the world, citizenship in the nation, and you had to go to Phoenix to get that.
And girls came along and cars came along.
No,
and
my dad passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I had to help my mom. I had to
Right.
I had one job. I had to get a second job
Right.
to help my mom out. I didn't have time for Boy Scouts, so I never got an Eagle. I always wanted to. But I got into Boy Scouts just because I told my kids I had a great time when I was one, and they wanted. So I got in. Me and 6 dads, 6 boys started a Boy Scout troop. It was 36 kids the next year, and it was 80 boys from then on. And I was a Scoutmaster 18 years.
What was the troop number?
451. We had a camouflage bus. We had a camouflage equipped trailer. I could take 50 kids on a camp out with 2 vehicles. We won every award there was. We were the flagship of Mesa. I have 120 Eagle Scouts to my name, the most of any Scoutmaster in Arizona.
What did you enjoy about you enjoyed you felt like you accomplished something and made life better for the racers. Now you're working altruistically for youth, not only your sons, but other kids. There are a lot of kids that are in Boy Scouts that didn't have a dad around, and they were Boy Scouts. And what did it feel like when you saw the connection for kids enjoying your passion?
There was a lot of single moms in my troop, and they brought the boys into the troop because they needed a male figure in their life. The Boy Scouts of America is all about teaching boys leadership, responsibility, starting things and getting them finished. The camping and stuff is the carrot, okay? And as soon as I realized what Boy Scouts is really about, I got into it big time, really big time. And I've got every kind of award you can imagine there too. Even the Silver Beaver Award.
So you did that for
18 years.
18 years, and not after your sons had already gone through it, you continued to do it.
Continue to do it because I felt the program was so good. It's like the ADRA. The ADRA still exists today.
So you worked at Salt River Project, and at Salt River Project you also had other workers there. Like how did you know Tom Sands?
I did.
And another Boy Scout.
Oh, I got a story for Tom Sands. Tom Sands, when he was going to college,
Tom Sands grew up helping manage and run Beeline Dragway.
He was. And we knocked heads, but I always knew it wasn't him making those decisions. I knew he was making decisions. So I didn't hate him, but we knocked heads. So he graduates from college, and he comes to work for the Salt River Project. I'm a supervisor of hydrology at the time. And he has to go at the working thing with the Salt River Project. You went and worked in all these different departments for a week to see what they all did before they made you a real engineer. So they bring him into my area. And they said, this is hydrology. You're going to spend a week here, and this is the supervisor, Jim McDade. And I turned around, he turned white. He turned white. So we went down and had coffee. And I told him, Tom, I said, I know we knocked heads, but it's a new deal, okay? We can get along just fine. Just be a good engineer, that's all I ask. We've been friends ever since.
And he was a great engineer.
He was a really good engineer.
Good Boy Scout leader. He's still
good boy. Yep, I got him in it. In fact, he was going to bring his boy into my troop, but he lived in Tempe, and he says, I'm going to try to see if I can get this troop up to par. And he did. He got involved with that, and he got it up to par. He worked up at Camp Geronimo, all kinds of stuff. Yes.
So he had the passion, and he was involved with the racing side of it, the race management.
And the ADRA, I never got paid.
Right.
I did that. We all of us. I mean, all of my, let's call them lieutenants, because I had motorcycle guys, dragster guys, different guys that we'd all work together to get things going. We had monthly meetings and all kinds of stuff at a pizza place, and that's how that went. So then I had the Camaro, and it kept breaking a lot. Set a record with it too. Here, 2B hot rod automatic, and then I wanted to go faster yet. So I wanted a dragster. So I talked to my sponsors, and they said, yeah, we'll do it. And Bill Hughes, this is a good story. Bill Hughes said, if you find a dragster you want to buy, and you don't have the Camaro sold yet, because I was going to sell the Camaro to buy the dragster, I'll loan you the money. So I find a dragster, and the guy's going to meet me in Denver. Okay. The next day, or 2 days. No, the next day. So I called Bill Hughes up in the morning, and he says, Jim, I'm in San Francisco, but I'm coming home. Meet me at the airport, and I'll write you a check. And I'll call the bank in case we're late. You can go to the bank and get the cash. So I meet him at the airport, and the only check he has is one of them original ones that don't have the name of your company on it. So he writes it out. I go to the bank. The vault's closed because it's after 6. So they give me $5,000 in 5s, 10s, and 20s. Put it in a bank bag. I got a borrowed pickup truck because it's got a tow thing on it. I throw the money underneath the seat, and we head to Denver. We drove all night, and we get to Denver. So we're in a Kmart parking lot. The dragster and the trailer's there, and the guy's pulling it with a motorhome, little Class C motorhome. So we're sitting in the motorhome, windows open, and we're counting the money at the table. And the police come in. Okay. I got long hair. This guy's got long hair, right? This is a drug deal. So the police come and knock on the door. What are we doing here? I'm buying this guy's race car. Let's see this race car. So we happen to open up the trailer, and there's the race car. We were all going, oh, God.
Fortunately, you had the race car there.
We had the race car there.
So you've been the full circle. You started small. You grew up. You had a great life growing up. Sounds like. You had some turns in your life when your dad passed away. You made the best of it. It's the things that make you a legend. You paid it forward with altruistic service to the Scouts. It made a big difference in a lot of kids' lives. I'm sure some of those kids even got into cars because you're passionate cars.
Some of them are Scoutmasters today.
Some are Scoutmasters today. So these are all things that come together to make you a legend. Is there before we end this? Is there anybody you remember that you wish they were here today to enjoy this with you?
The guy that worked with me most on my car was a big old guy named Archie. His name is, he never told anybody his real name. It was Jim Lynch. Okay,
because he didn't want to, obvious reasons, he didn't want to be associated with
so
the drag
he went by
motor.
Archie, everybody knew him. And then Basco had Big Ray, we all had these guys that...
Your henchmen.
Yeah, our henchmen, our guys that took care of everything we need to take, because we're building engines and we're going to drive the car.
So Archie would be sitting here smiling today if he was watching this.
He'll be here the 28th.
Okay.
He'll be here the 28th.
Well, he'll get to see the video, and he was mentioned because he means a lot to you.
A lot.
I want to let you know that congratulations again on the Arizona Drag Racing Hall of Fame. Congratulations, and thank you for taking the time to do the Arizona Drag Racing Legends series with us. We really appreciate your time, and you have a great day.
I will. Thank you.